Yeah, hey everyone. So for today's topic, and as we've been talking about previously, I wanted to cover DNS. So we've talked about IP addresses, the protocol being used, so whether it's IP, TCP, that stack, as well as ports. So today, the topic covers DNS. So specifically what DNS is, why it's needed in the internet, as well as how to perform a DNS lookup. So with that said, what is DNS? So it's the phone book of the internet. So think about it this way. When you type in, let's say, google.com into your browser, there's a translation that occurs in the background. So in this case, we do need the IP address of that domain name, so the domain name being Google. So that's essentially what DNS does, is it translates that domain name into an IP address, so something like your browser or whatever it may be can load the proper server, the resource specified, etc. So there's a pretty complex process that goes behind the scenes for that. You won't see that in the browser for obvious reasons, but essentially what happens is it goes through a series of DNS resolvers, servers, until it gets that IP address for you, and then the IP address is given to the browser so it can load the proper information. So a DNS is always associated with an IP address. Makes sense thus far. Your next question with that may be, well, how do I look up the IP address of, let's say, google.com or something along those lines if I should need it? So what you can do, there's a couple helpful command line utilities. One of my favorites is called NS lookup. So essentially it's a name server lookup. And the point of it is exactly what a DNS lookup is. Go find the IP address that corresponds to the host I specify. So if I type in NS lookup, let's say the platform, for example, platform.boomi.com. This is my server and IP address. So we got an answer, non-authoritative answer. All this means is that, as I talked about, there's a pretty complex DNS process. If you're interested in it, I'd recommend just watching a video or Googling it. But my local DNS essentially timed out, couldn't find the answer, so I went to another DNS server and got the answer. So I got 2 IP addresses for the platform. So let's say this should resolve to platform.boomi.com. There can be multiple IP addresses for a DNS, because let's say you have multiple servers with different IP addresses that are handling load, kind of like that clustering concept we see in Boomi. Then a specific domain name can have multiple IPs associated with it, and essentially what happens is requests are routed to different specific IP addresses depending on the point in time, how you route and robin those requests, items of that sort. So let's say I go to Google, for example, right here, and I do like an HTTPS. I want to secure hostname : port, so it's HTTPS. So that would mean I should use port 443 by default. We talked about this. HTTP is default 80. So here's an IP address, and we're in. So we got to the platform just from an IP address, but we can get to it the same way just by typing in platform.boomi.com. And that same translation in the background is occurring. So it's going to go find that IP address associated with the domain name, return it to the browser, and now the browser's in as expected. All right, sounds good, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.